Hi everyone, this is Gary Wilson and welcome to tonight's live investor agent training webinar. As always, welcome to all of you who've been in any of the other training programs, whether it's flipping for profits, rental profits, managing rentals, or wholesaling. Welcome aboard. Also, welcome aboard to all the new folks, okay? We are live and we are recording now. So a little bit of housekeeping. If you are new to this, of course, every week we have brand new students coming in. A couple of administrative notes here. Number one is you have a panel, a question panel that you can use to ask questions, okay? From time to time, we will unmute you and bring you on, and we haven't done that for a while, it seems like, but we do that. Everybody's muted by default. The subject is always what you want to cover, so you tell me what you want to go over, email, text, what have you, or just type it in tonight in your question box, and the very next week we'll cover that. What we're going to cover tonight is information related to flipping. We're going to go into a little bit of the calculations, but more importantly, the steps involved with working for flippers. If you recall last week, we went into detail on the steps involved for working with landlords, people who are actually buying rentals. And the reason that's important is there actually is a methodology involved. It's not, you can't just use traditional real estate servicing methodologies, traditional being that's what you use for owner-occupants. You can't really use that for investors. It just doesn't mesh well. It doesn't work. It causes frustration and misunderstanding. So we're going to get into that tonight on flipping. Last week we did rentals. Tonight we'll do flipping, as well as some of the formulas. A little bit easier than buying rentals, the formulas, that is, okay? So that's the agenda for tonight. In any case, if you have questions, please post them throughout. And what I'll do is I've reduced my panel, and every couple moments I will take a breather, check for questions, and get everybody caught up on questions. So let's go ahead and jump into the material, and we will move forward and take breaks along the way. So, okay, first things first. Last week we went over the calculation, one of the calculators for analyzing rentals. A few weeks before that, we went over one of the other calculators. So for rentals, you've got the cash flow worksheet, which is the basic simple formula. You've got the opportunity evaluator, which is an Excel spreadsheet, a little bit more advanced. And you also have the rental property reporter, which is an online version that's more of a calculator that you would see being used for, say, financial planners or accountants, okay? It gives you a lot of projections, internal rate of return calculations, things like that. So tonight you're going to see a drastic difference in the complexity of how we analyze the investment. So flipping is a lot easier to analyze, financially speaking, that is, than rentals. Not that rentals are difficult, it's just there's more information, there's more involved. So in any case, tonight, if you look at it, a basic example here, and the reason I chose 200,000 median home price is because a couple of years ago, that, believe it or not, was the median for the USA and Canada. It's no longer that, it's much higher now. But let's say you want to flip a property, and the area is selling right now at about $200,000 for the type of property that you're looking to flip. Let's just say it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, okay? The bottom line is this. That's the retail value. That's what you should be able to sell it for once it's remodeled and in marketable condition. No deferred maintenance. Everything is new or relatively new, and it competes well with not just resales, but also potentially new construction, okay? So if that's the case, right away, we know that we have to leave a profit margin in there, profit margin plus overhead. We choose 30% cushion. Now that includes your profit margin plus overhead. So realistically, you may be looking at 10% overhead. I mean, that could be your commission that you have to pay, things like that. And 20% would be earmarked for profit. So right out of the gate, even if you had to do nothing to the property, what that means is you can't pay more than $140,000 for the property in order to gain to having a net profit of 20% and 10% overhead. So now that's just real basic stuff right there. The reality is, though, is you're likely to have some work done to the property. Okay, so if you look at that, we'll get in. Let's just move down here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Whoop, sorry, that went a little bit too fast. Let me scroll back up here. We use what's called ARV. Now, some of this is going to look familiar to some of you it may not be. ARV stands for after repair value. Okay, after repair value is synonymous with appraisal value or assessment value. In other words, what the properties in the area in reasonably good condition are selling for. Okay, so that's your ARV, after repair value. It's the value of a property after any deferred maintenance is taken care of, and quite possibly some improvements. Okay, now we have that information. The next thing is we have to determine, is there anything that has to be done to the property as far as rehab goes. Well, if that's the case, we're going to get into that later. You have to then deduct that from your profit, your $200,000 ARV minus your 70%, i.e. 30% profit margin and overhead. In other words, if you have any remodeling to do, let's say you have $20,000 in remodeling to do, that means you can't pay more than $120,000 for this property. ARV minus your profit margin and overhead is 70%, which in this case is $140,000. If you got 20,000 repairs, that means you can't pay more than 120. Okay, enough said. I want to go into the steps involved for working with investors, okay? Working with flippers specifically in this case. And then we're going to get back into the formulas we use. We're going to go over what we call the MAO, which stands for Maximum Allowable Offer. But first, let's talk about what we do in the field with investors. So everybody, please get your pens and pencils handy and paper and be ready to start writing. So it looks very similar to what we did last week, and it is, but there's a big difference here in the middle. We'll get into that in a minute. First things first, though, you always start at the same spot. Let's say you come across a new prospect, you've done your marketing, they've responded to the marketing, and you're interviewing them. So you get them on the phone, you interview them, excuse me, whatever marketing you use to attract them, that's your starting point. In other words, that's how you initiate the conversation. They've got something of yours that you gave them that they see as being valuable. Okay? Use that as your starting point to establish rapport. Get into your conversation, which, again, is really an interview. So I want you to write this down. You're having a conversation. It feels like a conversation to them. The reality is you're going through an interview, actually interviewing them. So in the interview, you determine, based on the language you're using and what questions they ask, which way they're leaning. They're either going to be leaning towards buying flips or buying rentals, or wholesaling in some cases. In this case, we're going to assume they indicate that they're really interested in flipping. Okay? So we gather all the information. Of course, at the end of the conversation, you want to qualify them, and you need to ask them these three questions. Number one is, what do you have in savings? That's question number one, so I'll let you write that down. Question number two is, what is your credit score? Okay. And question number three is, do you have an available line of credit? Because people who have a line of credit, and by the way, in the case of business owners, they often have another line of credit just for their business. So one personal and one business. All right. Now, the reason that's important is that means they can stroke a check quickly to tie up a property. All right. Sometimes they can even pay for it outright by using a credit line. Really important information to have. Now, so you've gotten through the interview, you've now qualified them. Right, and this is all going to take a few minutes, obviously. But the next thing you want to do is this. You want to have them email you with a recap of the conversation. Now, this is we go over this in the classes, by the way, but I want to repeat it because it's absolutely crucial that you do this. So this is you speaking to them. You're the agent, they're the prospect. And you ask them, you say, would you please email me with a recap of our conversation in your own words? This is you asking them. So a couple things. Number one is you get valuable information from their perspective. which enables you to do a better job of servicing them, because the more you know about them, the more able you are to service them. Okay. All right, that's the key step. Now, if they don't respond to you, if they do not ever even send you the email, do you think that you may want to continue to work with them? So let me just give me some shout outs and answers here, and let me know what you think about that. If you ask them to send you an email and they don't send you the email, do you think you should work with them? So let me know what your answers are in the question box. I'll see what kind of responses we get. I think you know what the answer is, but probably not. That's right. So the reality is this: them sending you the email, and by the way, the request for you to send them, for them to send you the email, is really accomplishing a few things here. Number one, it's a commitment test. Remember the old saying, small commitments lead to large commitments? So if they're willing to commit on a small scale, like sending an email back to you that you've requested, that's usually a pretty good indicator that they'll be likely to commit when it really counts, like making offers, for example. Okay. Now, if they don't send you the email, that usually means that if trying to work with them out in production could possibly be a challenge. Quite frankly, it could be a pain in the neck. Okay. In other words, their behavior on a small scale is telling you how they will likely behave on when it really counts. Okay, so commitment is number one. Number two is it demonstrates that they're willing to engage with you at your level. In other words, you're at the same level with them. It's not like they're up here and you're down there and it's a subservient type of arrangement. You certainly are serving them, but they hold you at a higher level of esteem because of the way that you presented yourself. You're presenting yourself in a more business-like fashion. So commitment, number one, engagement is number two, and the third thing is this: it's a pretty strong indicator that they're action takers. If they're willing to take action on a small scale and follow your instruction, it's an indicator that they're more likely to be action takers when it really counts. Okay, so really, really important that you follow that step. Now, you get the email. Now you can set them up for a search. Okay, and the easiest thing to do is just take their information, enter it. You create a new client on your MLS system, and you want to search for properties that are going to satisfy their needs and wants. Now, it's easy to do because when it comes to investing, remember we started off in Module 1 creating a school report, using melissadata.com, and also using a local planning commission website to determine the best areas for buying properties for flipping and in some cases buying rentals. So you're sharing this with your clients. So what that means is they understand when you set them up on a search why you're using those areas, because you've done some homework at a higher level to determine what are the best areas in this case for flipping. Okay, so the point is this: you're actually educating them, informing them, and when it comes time to actually take action and execute, both of you are on the same page. You're singing from the same song sheet, in other words. So that's the next step. You actually set them up with a search. Now, I just was informed from Roger that in some of the MLSs, particularly in this case, Northern New Jersey, that the MLS system will not let you email full listing. Okay, so Roger and I spoke about this yesterday. It was kind of a surprise because there's 404 versions of different MLS systems, and generally you can send all those options are available to you to send to your clients. So what Northern New Jersey says is, well, we won't let you do that for non-members. Only members can get the full listing, which means you can get the full listing. So you can probably send them to yourself. And once you send it to yourself, now hey Roger, by the way, that's a good question. I think the obvious answer is you certainly can look at the full listing online because you're the agent, but can you send it to yourself? That's another question. Or more importantly, can you download it? Can you actually export that? So instead of emailing it, perhaps you can export it, because that might be your answer there, Roger. Any case, in most other MLS systems, it's not a concern. I just want to bring that point up, okay? Because some of you may be restricted to just send them whatever the available options are: email view, agent view, short view. There's all kinds of views, okay? The bottom line is you're going to set them up on a search so that they get all the properties that are in that area. that makes sense for their circumstances. Now, real quick, let me check for questions here because I saw some pop in. This is Roger. So Roger's, yeah. So Roger, I got the email. I appreciate that. And Rhonda, so hey Rhonda, how you doing? Hey Rhonda, I'm coming back to California next week. I'll be there for a total of 5 weeks. If you go to myinvestmentservices.com/events, you'll see where I'm going to be. I think I'm going to be in Diamond Bar, the City of Industry. I don't think that's too far from you. So check it out. Let me know when I'm going to be close to you. And if you want to get together, I'd love to do that. So just let me know. And okay, so to your question, ours will let you send a full listing only without the listing agent's info. Well, that's interesting. Hey, Rhonda, that's actually ideal because that's the perfect scenario. You can send them a full listing, but it excludes the listing agent's information. Most systems just include it. So Roger says, thanks Rhonda, by the way, for that. So Roger says, I don't believe it will allow end user to open up tabs like Realist. I will run a test. Yeah, I don't think they can do Realist. I think you have to do Realist, Roger. What I'm saying is on the full listing, if you can't even email it to yourself, even though you're the agent, see if you have an export function, okay? Because that might be your answer right there. That would be a good test to run. Rhonda says exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, guys, let me bring the panel back over and we'll continue here. All right, so now they've got the listings, all right? These next few steps, you're going to practice on your own. It's particularly step number 5. And when you get it down to where it's like riding a bike, and it really is that simple. I mean, once you do this a couple times, guys, you've got it down pat. You're going to show your clients how to do the same thing. So if you can imagine yourself looking at some MLS, a string of listings as a result of an MLS search. You're going to go through the properties, and your job is to narrow it down. You and your investor are going to narrow down that list. Let's say you start off with 100 listings, okay? It does not make sense for you or your client to go physically look at 100 properties. And that's where a lot of investors, a lot of agents make the mistake. They think they've got to go look at everything, okay, and do almost like a physical analysis before they do the financial analysis. And the reality is, you're always better off doing as much of the financials ahead of time as you possibly can and narrow your list down that way, and then only go look at the best of the best, not the cheapest, not the most expensive, but the ones that have the highest probability of turning a profit for your client, which means you get paid, okay? So here's how we do that. Let's say we've got 100. The first thing we always do, guys, right out of the gate, is we look at the listing price for the property, what the asking price is. In other words, what the owner and their listing agent assumes you're going to get for the property. That information in of itself is meaningless. I don't really care what other people, what they think they're going to get for the property or what they want to get for the property. However, relative to other information, it is vitally important. So in other words, if you have on your listing the appraisal value, sometimes it's called the assessor's value, as long as they're accurate, you have a comparison. So what I'm looking for is either that information, or if I don't have that, my own knowledge of the area. In other words, if we're looking at it for 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes, and it's a 2-story home with a 2-car garage, what are those homes selling for in the areas that you've determined that you should be looking in from your school report? Okay, and now you have essentially sort of for lack of better terms, almost like a CMA. You have information related to sales for that exact type of property in specific areas. What I'm getting at is you need to know that information or have it on your MLS listing provided by like a local tax assessor who's done appraisals. However you get that information, the bottom line is you're going to compare the list price with that value. If the list price is higher than that, we're going to discard the property and never look at it again. If the list price is lower than what you perceive to be, i.e., after repair value, okay, for that type of property in that area, then I'm going to keep that in the good pile. In other words, list price is below what we believe is fair market value for the area. Now, I'm just using this MLS as a tool because it's the one thing we all have in common. Obviously, there's more tools available to you that we get into in the program. So, but let's assume we're just using the MLS, right? So far, you've basically cut your list in half. You eliminated all the properties where the list price you believe is too high, right? And you're left with all the ones that, at least initially, have some hope of making sense for your investor. But you're not done yet. That's just the first wave. The second wave of activity is this. Now you're going to go into looking at more information on the property and whatever you have available to you on the listing. You're going to be looking at photographs. You're going to be looking at lot size, room sizes, a lot of characteristics, okay? So let's say the next pass is you're looking at the photos and you eliminate another 50% of the properties. So you went from 100 to 50 the first pass by looking at list price relative to market value. Second pass is you're looking at photos. You try to eliminate as many of those as you can, okay? A third pass would be you're focusing more specifically on numbers of bedrooms, the sizes of the bedrooms. Is there a basement? Is it a finished basement? Is there a garage? Is it attached or detached? In other words, you're trying to look for characteristics of the property that match the characteristics of other properties in the area that are selling. Because remember, you've got to sell what's selling. Your investor needs to flip what's selling. Okay? So based on that criteria, you're eliminating more and more properties. At the end of the day, you do one final pass, and you're going to look at information that you have available to you on your county property tax assessment database. The reason is you can possibly gather additional information from that resource. It's free, and every property in your area is on that database. Most states, it's at the county level. In New York, it's actually at the municipal level, the town level, okay? So in any case, the bottom line is this: you're going through multiple passes of those listings and narrowing it down and narrowing it down and narrowing it down only to the best of the best. Again, not the most expensive, not the cheapest, but the ones that have the highest chance of being a profitable investment for your investor. So you're going to do this on your own at first, and once you feel comfortable with this process, you're going to go through it with your clients. You're going to show them how to do this, okay? Because you're going to educate them and inform them. They're going to be part of the process. I know that's a little bit of a mind shift for a lot of us out there, and it was for me too. But I learned when I followed this methodology, I always had better investors and basically made more money. So as opposed to doing the routine where you're stuck where you've got to do everything for them, like owner occupants. And what happens is you end up making less money. More work and less money, and we're not into that kind of game. So anyway, so we're going through this narrowing down process in step 5. At the end of the day, you might be left with 20, maybe 30 properties, okay? Now, you're not going to drive by all those. Your client's going to drive by them. All right, so they're going to drive by these remaining properties, and then they'll do a quick physical analysis, like on the outside of the property, the surrounding neighborhood. How close is it really to shopping, to colleges or universities, to hospital systems? If you're flipping 3 and 4 bedroom homes, how close are they going to be to elementary schools? Really important. You want to be in the vicinity of fire and police, but just not right next door to them. Okay, so all of these character traits are going to come into play here at step number 6, which is the drive-by step. So, your first couple people, you might want to do this with them so you can get it down, basically get it down to a science. And once you do, you can instruct people how to do it over the phone on what they're looking for, just like I just described a moment ago. And all this information is written in the material that you have, by the way, prior to this 12-step process. All right, so you can review that. Now, the purpose of this step number 6 is your clients are narrowing it down further, the list of properties, in half again. Maybe now you're down to 10 or 15 properties. Okay, now you're in business. And what you're going to do is you're going to have your clients send you the MLS ID numbers of all these 10 to 15 properties that they believe have the best chance of making a profitable investment, being a profitable investment. So obviously you get those ID numbers. You should, at that point in step number 7, go through their homework. That's what we call going through their homework. Okay. Whoops, sorry. I'm jumping way too back here. Hang on one second. Come on, computer. There we go. It should be going back up here in a second. A little bit slow. So give me 1 second, guys. There it is. I'm on a new computer, and I'm still getting used to it. So, okay, step number 7. They're going to give you what they believe the top 10 or 15 properties. You're going to pull up all those MLS numbers and go through them as if you were the client. Okay, this is going to take a little time at the beginning, but just know that when you do it this way, guys, you're going to be spending far less time, and the time you do spend is going to be far more effective. So, in any case, back to this step, we call it checking the homework. You're gonna look at what they give you, go through the steps of analysis, eliminating the wheat from the chaff, narrowing things down, and your job at this point is to try to cut it down to somewhere between 5 and 7 properties. Ideally, the ideal number, by the way, is 6. We've determined that psychologically the average person can absorb and compile and digest and retain information on up to 6 properties. Beyond that, everything starts to get convoluted and diluted, and basically you get things mixed up. So 6 is the ideal number. So in any case, you email them back and you say, okay, I've narrowed this down from your 10 to 15 down to say, in this case, 7 properties. And you show them why, by the way. You don't just tell them what you did. You're going to show them how you did what you did, because remember, you're endeavoring to inform them and educate them every step of the way. So you show them what you did. Why did you narrow it down to these top 7 properties? Now, let's say all 10 or 15 are excellent prospects. You just simply want to make an A list and a B list, okay? A list is the ones that you can, or maybe, areas that are closer together, so your travel route that day when you look at them is not so convoluted. Or you might be able to separate them in an A pile and a B pile based on information that you saw and that you can share with them. The bottom line is this: you're going to narrow it down to properties that you can look at in a 3 to 4 hour time frame, okay? Roughly a half hour per property. So you set the appointments for this, all right? And you make sure you have your day already set up with your client, by the way. So real quick, let me do a quick pause here. I want you to write this down. Every week, I always did this on Wednesdays. So this is, I'm giving you some instructions here. Every Wednesday, what you should be doing is emailing your clients, giving them your schedule for the following week. So tomorrow's Wednesday. I would email my clients, my active clients. It might be juggling 30 of them, but I'm going to take the 5 or 6 that are actively looking and 1 or 2 more that I think are getting close. And I'll give them my schedule for the following week. And I'll say I'm available Monday afternoon, Tuesday morning, Wednesday evening. I give them one evening a week. Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, and I would give them every other Saturday for a half a day. That was what I did. And I would tell them, and by the way, I would copy all of them on the same email. All right, I'd send them all the same email, which creates a sense of urgency. And I would get faster responses. People would say, I'll take Wednesday, I'll take Tuesday, I'll take Thursday. And you always send it to more people than you have time slots for, okay? So, in any case, you do that, you set your appointments, and then what you do is you want to give your clients a refresh the same day. On Wednesday night, you do a refresh for all of them, right? The ones that are saying they want to go out with you the following week, and have them go through their analysis the next day. And then you have one more day to set up appointments for, say, Saturday morning, for example, okay? And then on that Saturday, I'm going to move into the next part here, guys, is this. You've already got your day lined up. You've set your appointments for the properties. You've already predetermined this showing day with your clients, so everything's lining up. You go to look at the properties, right? And this is really important. So I'm going to just pause here for a second, let you catch up, and then we'll continue in this next part. Okay. You meet them at the first property. Now, you can either drive with them to the other 5 or 6 properties, or you can just have them follow you. It's completely up to you. I've done it both ways. I prefer to be in my own car, because I can make phone calls, and at the end of the day, we go our separate ways. Everything's fine. It doesn't matter. There's no statistic that shows that one way is better than the other. The bottom line is, you just want to determine ahead of time, are you going to ride together or ride separately? I will tell you, if you ride together, you might want to do that with newer clients because it helps you further establish rapport and trust, and also you get to observe them and how they're operating out there in the field, and you might be able to correct a few little nuances here and there. So in any case, you're out looking at properties, okay? This is step number 9, and throughout the day, you don't want to spend more than a half hour on each property. It just doesn't take that much time. And once you get used to this, you and your class will get it down to a science. So you're going through the properties, and they're making notes. You're not the one making notes. You're giving them the information sheets and the rehab sheets ahead of time, and they're going through and taking their pictures and filling out the forms. This is exactly how you have them do it. Okay. Now let's say you get through all the properties. Okay. At the end of the day, I'm going to kind of fill in some gaps here. This is what you want to do. Or what you don't want to do is this. You never want to say, hey, that was a great day. I think we found some really good prospects. Let me know whenever you're ready to make a move. Don't ever do that. You just basically reduced your chances of earning a commission by about 50%. So here's what you do. You never leave the scene until you've gone through the next step and set the next expectation. So what I mean is this. You've gone through 6 properties, for example. What you do is you pick whether it's the last property you're at, or go to a Starbucks, or if it's still light out, use the trunk of your car as your desk. You're going to lay out the 6 properties side by side. Or actually you could do one of 2 things. You could lay them out side by side and then have them take the one that's on the most left and compare it to the one to the right. This is the printout, though. This is the listing we're talking about. And you ask them, okay, between these 2, based on your notes, which one do you think you would want to buy? And you keep that one and discard the other one. And you keep going through the 6 properties until you narrow it down to 1 or possibly 2 or 3, no more than 3 though, okay? Now I have had some scenarios where all 6 or 7 properties were absolute good deals and we couldn't eliminate any of them. That's actually a good problem to have. But let's say you get it down to 3 properties, or maybe 4 properties, okay? By the way, the other technique is this. What you can do is, instead of looking at them one at a time, you can look at them all together at the same time and tell them to pick the one they want to keep out of the 6 you're looking at together, pull that aside, then have them go through the same thing with the remaining 5. You could also do a third approach is, all right, of all 6 of these properties we're looking at side by side here, lay them all out right on your top of your hood, for example, all together. Which one can you live without the easiest? And you eliminate that property. Now you're down to 5. Then you say, okay, out of the 5 remaining, which one of these can you most easily do without? You eliminate that one, and you try to get it down to the 1 to 3 or 2 or 1 that they absolutely can't live without. That's actually the approach I like the best, that third approach. Okay, so now we're down to the next critical step, which is this. You tell them, you say this, okay, I want you to take these final 3 properties, or maybe it's 2 or whatever. I want you to go home, review your notes, update your projections, scan and email those to me. And this was you speaking to them. And I'm going to go over those with you. I'm going to call you at 9 o'clock tonight. So please email these to me by 8:45, something like that. Okay? So you get their homework, and you should double check it, by the way, too, just to make sure there's nothing obvious that they've missed. Call them up and say, okay, let's go through these. And by the way, the answer will almost always reveal itself quite readily. In other words, out of the 3, let's say you've got 3 of them, one of them is clearly going to stand out head and shoulders above the rest. If you're down to 1, your work is done. You can move on to make an offer. But the bottom line is this. You're going to have them choose the one that they want to make the first offer on first. And you tell them, okay, I'm going to write the offer up now. I'm going to email it to you. Now you have dot loop. Have them sign, return to you with a copy of their earnest money deposit, i.e. their hand money check. Also proof of funds if they're getting a loan, showing that they've been pre-qualified, or pre-approved, excuse me, okay? And also the signed offer, okay? And you do that all that night. In other words, you got to crank that out literally in, it won't take you long. I mean, to make an offer, the way we do it is basically cookie cutter or boilerplate. you're basically submitting all, all of their elections are the same. Any due diligence clauses are all going to be the same. You're just simply changing the address of the property you're purchasing and the price. But in any case, you get this in their hands, have them email it back to you that night, and you get it in the listing agent's hands that night. So when they wake up in the morning, and by the way, you send them a message saying, when you get up in the morning, you're going to have an offer in your in-basket. Please process ASAP. Okay? Now that's how you get offers made, guys. That's how you get the best offers made on the best properties the most efficient way possible, while at the same time narrowing down your scope of effort to only the best properties in the best areas with the best people. Okay, that's why we have such a high offer acceptance rate. It's usually around 65%. So at this point, now you're waiting for the response from the listing agent. Okay, now you can make other offers, but what I will not do is this. I would not suggest, let's say your client says, well, let's make offers on all three, but you know they can only buy one. I would tell them not to do that, because their reputation could get hurt and so could yours. If you make 3 offers and 2 of them are accepted and they can only buy one, you're going to have mud on your face, and so are they. Okay. Now here's what you should do. Let's say you go through all this effort. There is 3 good properties and your client can only buy one. What should you do with the other properties? So let me bring my panel back over and give me your thoughts on that. What should you do with the other properties, right? So let me look for responses there. And while we're looking for responses, I have a couple questions. Let's see. Debbie Morgan, okay, I went to the school price and I did not see values like you say. Can you go over the school report again? Let's see. So Debbie went to the school price. You mean school report? I did not see values like you say. Did you mean listing? So Debbie, elaborate, or if you could email me, that would be good too, but elaborate on what you mean there. In other words, I'm not sure if you mean you went to the listing, you saw the listing price, but you did not see values like assessment values or appraisal values that usually you get. Most MLSs will have that field that your listing agent has to populate. If you don't have that, Debbie, what you have to do is you have to know the area. You've basically got to do some analysis on the area to determine if you know that the most likely house to sell is a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom room with a 2-car garage, and it's a 2-story house. Determine in the areas that your school report says to be in what they're selling for. Now you've got essentially after repair value for the area. However, if you're talking about I went to this, Debbie, just elaborate, because otherwise I'm probably going to be guessing here. And let me check and see some responses. Teresa says, yes, if you have 3 good deals and your client only takes one, absolutely offer the others to other investors, or you could buy one yourself perhaps. Great way to drum up additional business. So let's see, Jackie, offer them to other investors, exactly. Oh, so Debbie says no on the census or school report. Let me see, Debbie. Let me go back. I thought there was one more line from you. Yes. So let me go back to Debbie Morgan's question. Okay. Okay. Yes. So if you're not getting that value on your listing, then Debbie, then yes, you have to determine. I mean, basically, exactly what I just said there is for the types of properties your client should be flipping in those specific areas, what are they currently selling for, and use that information as your litmus test. That's really what you want to do. So I think you said yes to that, and no on the census or school report. So hopefully I got that right. If I didn't, Debbie, I'll email you. Okay, good. Excellent. All right, guys, what I want to do at this point is this. Let you digest that for a second, okay? And by the way, one more thought here. When you're working with investor clients, what you want to do is keep a file system. If you're using .loop, that's fine, but basically set up a file structure, okay, so that you have a folder for flippers and a folder for landlords, for example. And then in each of those folders, you'll have a separate file for each client, or excuse me, separate folder for each client. And in those client folders, you're going to keep copies of all of the offers that you made, all of the contracts, every single thing. Because then what you can do is going forward is they keep buying more and more properties. You just simply pull up one, an existing one, and all you got to do is change the price and the address of the property you're purchasing. All of their information remains the same. There's elections that they're making, their name and their address, all that remains the same, and you save yourself a ton of time, okay? So, all right, let me move on to the next part here. So hang on one second. I'm going to show you the latter part of how you use this information now, okay? So let me get down there. Hang on one second. By the way, this is the description of what I just gave you. This was the written description of everything I just went over with you. But I want to get to the MAO, Maximum Allowable Offer. Okay, MAO, Maximum Allowable Offer. We touched on this at the beginning of tonight's session, so let's go ahead and dig in more fully. MAO stands for Maximum Allowable Offer. What that is literally just like it says. It's the most you can offer on a property and still turn a profit. So in the original example, we were assuming, initially no rehab, and if it's a $200,000 neighborhood for 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes in this example with a 2-car garage and it's a 2-story house, that means your total cost basis can't be more than $140,000, which means you got to purchase and remodel that house for $140,000 in order to turn the 30% profit margin with overhead equaling 10%, 1/3 of that 10%. Okay, so in this example, let's just determine that through the analysis your client did, the physical analysis, that the property needs $30,000 in rehab. So what that means is you take the $200,000, subtract your 30% profit and overhead, which leaves you with $140,000 cost basis, and you got a $30,000 rehab job that you're looking at. That means you got to subtract $30,000 from the $140,000, which leaves you a maximum allowable offer of $110,000. That's the most you can pay for that property to be able to afford $30,000 in rehab, and leave you another $60,000 in profit and overhead, $20,000 in overhead and $40,000 in profit. Okay, so in any case, I want to describe that to you because here's where a lot of people make a mistake. Not you, but the investors. They assume that they can fudge that a little bit. They assume that they can, stretch it, and yeah, they might only make $30,000, and hey, I'm okay with that because $30,000 is better than nothing. But you've got to be mindful of your ratios, because a lot of projects will take longer than you think they will sometimes, than you originally planned. A lot of them will go over budget. Sometimes when you go to resell a property, the market starts, you're going into the winter months and things take longer. All kinds of things can happen in a flip. So what we tell people is, don't ever fudge on these numbers, on ARV, after repair value, or on MAO, maximum allowable offer. Now, real quickly, I wanted to just go over this real quickly with you. ARV has to be accurate. In other words, what you're projecting is going to be the ARV for a property, has to be based on actual factual data. How you like that? Actual factual data from the area. Okay? That means if you don't have, appraisal values or assessor values, you've got to really know the area and do a CMA if you want, just for each area, determine what is a valid, accurate ARV. Okay? Because if you get that number wrong, it can mean it can make a lot of problems for you down the road. Let's just go over some examples. Let's say your ARV that you believe is for right for the area, you overestimate it. In other words, you're in an area that should be 200,000 and you think it could be more like 210. Okay? What can happen is if you start off with too high or too aggressive an ARV, you and your client may end up making too high of an offer on that property. In other words, instead of having a cost basis of 140, you may have a cost basis of 150 or more, and you might think, hey, that's not such a big deal. They still can make 20,000 bucks. The challenge is it's a habit forming thing. If you start getting in the habit of being too aggressive on your projections, at some point you're going to have to pay the piper. It's just inevitable. You start pushing the envelope, you start taking more chances, and at some point you're going to get caught. Okay. So now let's say the ARV you come up with is lower than it should be. Maybe you thought it should be 190. What that can mean is again, going back to the original offers, that might translate into your offers being too low, and you may never get your offers really looked at or even favorably looked at, and you won't be as competitive. Okay, so you've got to really make sure that ARV is spot on, as close as you can possibly get it. Never fudge on that. And on the back end, on your MAO, you never fudge on that either. Now, I'm going to go over this next thing here with you and take a few minutes because it's very important. You do have to have an understanding of what way your market is moving. If real estate in your area is moving up, in other words, prices are escalating, you can push a little bit on the upside. Okay, you basically want to price ahead of the market is what we're getting to. Whether it's going up or down, you want to price ahead of the market. Now, if it's going up, what that means is, it doesn't mean that you fudge on the ARV. What it means is you can keep your numbers the same, but then when it comes time to price it on the back end, when the flipping the remodeling's done, you're going to flip it and resell it now for profit. You can push it a little bit, maybe as much as 10%. Okay. Now, the other thing that means is this: you always want to leave a little bit of cushion in here. So if you look here on your page right now, you'll see starting offer. You've got your MAO, maximum allowable offer. We've covered that. Starting offer is your MAO less some type of cushion. Okay. Now, if you're in an escalating market where prices are going up, and that usually means there's more demand, you're not going to be able to knock off an additional 15% right out of the gate. It's going to knock you out of the game. You might be able to knock off 5% and get away with it, but more often than not, you may have to offer exactly MAO. Okay, in a really aggressive market. But let's just take an equilibrium market where you've got a few months inventory on hand. Okay, you generally can go down easily 10% off of your MAO and leave yourself some cushion for negotiating. Now, you'll see in your material that I give you, in negotiating, what I generally will do is I'll encourage my clients to make offers that have some throwaway contingencies or some throwaway requests. Like in your offer, you might say, I'll buy the house for $140,000, but I also want the boat in the backyard, or I want the swing set, or I want the, whatever. You want the furniture, for example. You want all the tools in the garage. These are called throwaway items. So what happens is in a tight market, you can make a good offer, one that's right at your MAO, but what you can do to buy yourself some negotiating room is to throw in these throwaway items like tools, furniture, swing sets, an old boat, whatever the case is. I know some of it may sound silly, but the reality is we've done it all, and it does work, because they'll like your price, but they're going to think you're being crazy asking for all the other stuff. So you gradually discard them. You say, okay, I'll take that, but I still want, you can have all your tools, but I want the swing set. Use it as negotiating strategy to throw in items in there that are really non-financial, not directly related to the value of the property for you, because remember, you're going to be flipping it. Well, you're a client in this case. And I guess I just want to describe that to you. Now, if you're in a slower market, let's say you got 6 months inventory or more, yeah, go down 15%. I've gone down 20 or 25% before off my MAO. Okay, the point is your starting offer should reflect what's happening in your market. Escalating market, you go tighter on your cushion. A slow market, you can be more aggressive in your discount. Okay, so let me bring the panel back over. Look for some questions. I want to make sure you guys understood that. Let's see. So Roger says you have not changed the page. I'm not sure if what, so the page I'm on, Roger, is the one at the top that says making offers. That's what's on my screen. And it talks about MAO and a starting offer. You should have that on your screen. So if you don't have it, I'm not sure why. That's really highly unusual. And it could be in GoToWebinar. I don't know why or how that would happen. But just remember, if you look in your material, let me give you the page number, okay? Look at page 57, and you'll see the page that I'm talking about, okay? Actually, I just scrolled down. Let me go back up here and see if, let me just do a change and see if you guys see it now. You're really not missing much because everything I just described to you is actually in your material. I just wanted to give you a verbal description of your starting offer, which is not in the material. That's just the Gary Wilson philosophy on making offers. So that's really not in your material anyways. Any case, that's really what I wanted to cover tonight. I highly encourage you to practice this and go over it on your own. In fact, I'll just tell you, you really need to do this. You really need to practice this stuff. And the more you do, the more you're going to be able to perfect it. Okay, let's see. Teresa is asking, I'm behind on my lessons. Is this material? Yeah, so this is all in your material, Teresa. This is part of Module 2, page 50. This is page 57 that I just went over right here. Let me double check that. I think it was 57. Yeah, page 57. And I would, at a minimum, you guys definitely need to go through Modules 1 and Module 2. You might have to do it multiple times because once you get the first two modules down, when you get into the marketing, you're going to be far more effective. You'll be able to walk the talk. You understand what your clients are asking for, what they need, what they want, and how to interpret things. So Module 1 and Module 2 are absolutely critical. Module 4 is more of a guide. Module 4 is that when you go look at the membership section, Teresa, you're going to see all the marketing campaigns out there fully described in detail, and they're recorded and cataloged by subject type. They're all out there for you in the membership section. You want to download those as you need them and make your own copies. Okay. Okay. Let me go back over here and check for more questions. This is Takia. Hi, Takia. Okay. Do we have to account for the amount the lender is willing to lend? Well, in a case of a flip, we assume that your client has access to funds to buy and remodel the property. You know, some lenders are still in the game of doing, you know, financing for flips, you know, for buy and flip. It's just not as common as it was in a market where lending has gotten very loose, like it actually is now. Actually, lending is loosening up. So, you know, if your offer, let's say you can only make a $140,000 offer, Takia, your client needs to make that known in their offer. They need to say, I'm putting down 20%, you know, or 25% and financing the rest. So in other words, they're going to put down $35,000 and finance the other 105. I generally, with my flippers, I don't want them to have to finance anything, because if they do, they're generally going to end up using hard money loans, which really fouls things up sometimes. So the answer to your question is, it's implied in here, like your ARV, whatever that is, they're going to make an offer based on that, whether they have a loan or not, you know. Let's see, do we have an account for the amount of lenders willing to lend? Okay, so that's that question. Let's see, next one is Glenn. Hi, Glenn. So Glenn is asking, in Denver, I've quit looking for fix and flips. Example, ARV 140, 145, repairs 2025, list price 105, with multiple offers well over list. And this is just one of many I've gone to look at. So going after investors. Yeah, Glenn, I agree with you, man. Obviously, I've been to Denver, and I'm going back to Denver, by the way, Glenn, I think in late May, early June, to teach at the market centers I had to cancel last summer when my daughter got sick. But in any case, so Glenn, don't give up on the flips altogether. What I would do is I would use the letter campaign, the letter technique, and write the letter, send the letter to people who are likely to want to have to sell. You know, people going through divorce, people going through probate, which is decedents, bankruptcy, foreclosure. Um, listen to the webinars that focus on the letter campaign, and we go into great detail on how you can use public records to determine those things. So that'll keep you in the flipping business. But I agree with you. Um, for me personally, owning all those rentals has made a huge difference. The flipping, once you stop flipping, your income stops. But you can buy rentals and stop buying rentals for a while and still have plenty of cash flow coming in. Okay. Jackie is asking, do you have any scripts when talking to investors? Yeah, so Jackie, when you go into the membership section and look at all of the recordings for all the marketing campaigns, we get into scripting in each one of those individually. What you write, how you write it, what you say when you speak to them, that's all in there. Let's see. Teresa says, thanks, you're welcome. Okay, Jackie's asking, for flippers, what kind of credit should we look no less than? Well, it really depends on the lenders in your area, Jackie. Most lenders want to see people in the 700 or more range. You can definitely get loans in the 600 range. We've even seen lenders make loans to people who have a credit score of 550. So it really depends. You need to check with your local lenders. It's real easy to do because you just call them up or email them, and they'll give it the information to you, right? Roger's cash is, yeah, man. And Roger's right, guys. I agree wholeheartedly. I learned over the years that the successful investors that you're working with, over time, they'll start to work on a cash basis. In fact, I learned that from my investors. I only work on a cash basis now. Matter of fact, I have no mortgages. And everything I do is in cash because cash is king. Always has been, always will. Cash offers get the best responses. I know it may seem like it's really far out there for some of you. Just hang in there. It will happen for you just like it happened for Roger or me and everybody else. You'll find out these people will start to align themselves with you because of the way you're conducting your business. All right, and cash investors, I mean, sometimes they'll do no inspections. They want to close like in 7 days, which means you get paid real quickly, right? So, in any case, good questions, guys. I appreciate your participation tonight. Again, look for the emails from Beverly, particularly those come out after these webinars, and save them and read them because she gives you a lot of valuable information in those, a lot of instructions, updates, things like that, particularly the upcoming webinar schedule, and of course the recording. Also, we'll let you know when we have a guest coming on, which we generally do about once a month. We've had some really good ones in the past, and I got some really good ones lined up for you guys. So pay attention to all that. Beverly's real busy, and when she can communicate via email and give everybody the same information, it really helps her a lot to be able to do that. So, okay, let's see. I think we just got another question coming in. Let's see. Jackie says, thank you. You're welcome, Jackie. And Jackie says, when are you coming to Jersey? Well, guess where I am right now, Jackie? I'm actually teaching at Montclair tomorrow. I will be up in New City on Thursday, which I know is New York, but it's kind of next to New Jersey, obviously. And then Friday, I'll be at the Manhasset office out on Long Island, a little bit of ways from you. But I'm at Montclair tomorrow at 2. Hang on, let me tell you what time I start at Montclair. Montclair is at 2 o'clock tomorrow, Jackie. If you want to make the trip, Fassel's coming to meet me. We're going to have dinner afterwards. So I'll be glad to, if you want to come to class, that would be wonderful. Let's see. Natasha says, can't wait to see you Friday. Yeah, Natasha, I look forward to seeing you too. Thank you so much. And classes at 10, Natasha, on Friday. I think it's going to be closer to 2 o'clock by the time we're done, just based on how things have been going with the class. It's just taking longer because ever since we were told we're in a shift, more and more people are taking interest in the class, in the training program. So Rhonda says, okay, only your March dates are posted now, and they are quite far. Beach cities, I will watch for April. Yeah, okay, they haven't put April out there yet, Wanda, but that should be coming out any time now. No worries. I hope we can do lunch thereafter for our strategy. Yeah, as long as you don't mind, Natasha, working with me, Toy too, because she wanted the same thing. You both wanted, and I think you guys actually know each other. but we can get a lot done. I've done group sessions before, 5 and 6 and 12 people. It works great, but 2 is ideal because you guys will you'll learn from each other. Love Toy. Okay, she's such a wonderful person, isn't she? Yeah. Okay, both you guys are actually. So, okay, guys. I hope you had a wonderful night tonight. I did. I appreciate your participation. I look forward to seeing you next week, which, by the way, will be next Wednesday, the 15th. I will be doing that from Hacienda Heights. I'll be teaching at City of Wanda, City of Industry. I thought that was not too far from you. I know that's kind of like east of LA. I just don't know how far. So that might be a compromise. I'll be there arriving from San Clemente probably around 2 to 3 in the afternoon. Webinar will be at 4, California time, that is. Okay, and then I'll have dinner after that. If you want to meet me for dinner Wednesday night, that'd be great. Thursday, I've got to. Actually, you know what? Thursday, I fly out. Yeah, that won't be good. Thursday, I fly out. So let me know if maybe there's a way we can meet Wednesday, Wanda. It's City of Industry. So, okay, guys, have an awesome weekend. God bless you all and your families, and please let me know what you need help with. Also, if you could give me some feedback, we're trying to get a real good grasp on what techniques you guys are using more of and where you're getting your results. So if you could send me an email and say, hey, Gare, I've been using the booklet and I got X, or I'm using the letter and I got X. That helps me a lot. Or you doing the webinars, the workshops, whatever that is. The more we know, the more we're able to serve you and help you. So that would be wonderful. Okay, Wanda says Diamond Bar is closer, but I'm assuming it's on your April schedule. No, Diamond Bar is actually next week, Wanda. I teach there Thursday, the 16th. I'll be staying at Hacienda Heights Courtyard Marriott Wednesday night, the 15th. And after 5 or 5:30, I'll be open. So maybe that'll work out. So, okay, guys, you guys take care. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.